Welcome to the Payday with Rayray podcast, hosted by yours truly, Rachel Bell. I'm here to make your life easier as an entrepreneur and teach you everything I've learned about building multiple seven-figure online businesses. And on this podcast, I'll be giving you my best advice, trainings, and mindset shifts so you can grow your business and, most importantly, make every day your payday. What's up and happy Friday. Happy payday. Payday babies. Welcome back to Payday with Rayray. And I'm so excited, as usual, for this episode and every episode that comes out. This one in particular because I'm introducing you to a guest. That's right, a guest. Fireworks in the background. Imagine that. It's not often that I bring on a guest to this show. One is because I have a lot of shit to say myself, and I don't really run out of ideas very easily, but also because I'm quite picky when it comes to who I want to be speaking into your life. And the reason why I'm so picky is because, number one, there's a lot of bad advice out there. You probably already noticed that. Number two, I don't ever want this to be a show where it's been something that you can hear on any other podcast episode, or you can just Google it real quick. Time management tips, all that stuff. It's out there, but this show is particularly sacred to me because I want to unveil the most sophisticated tools when it comes to personal development, time management, energy management, and business management that I've discovered on my journey through being an entrepreneur. And the guest that I'm bringing on today is named Peter Shaw. That's what he goes by. Is it his real name? We'll never know. But Peter Shaw is a mindset and NLP guru and trainer, which means if you've never heard of NLP, let me enlighten you. It is abbreviated for Neurolinguistic Programming. It sounds quite hypnotic, and that's basically what it is. It's learning how to use the mind in a different way than you probably ever used it before. And Peter is an amazing facilitator and trainer on this topic. And I want to share a little bit about how we met and how I came across this strange Australian man. So it all started in 2014. I was embarking on my first ever coaching journey. Woohoo! Yeah, go Rachel. Except it was very, very hard and I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. And it was extremely difficult to get started. And I was searching high and low for every single tool or certification or tip or trick or podcast or ebook or whatever I could get my little hands on how to be a better coach, how to facilitate transformation in a way that a professional could. And I was not taking the skill set aspect of my coaching journey very lightly. I really wanted to invest in myself, find the best trainers and find the best material that I could learn and embody and practice on myself so that I could in turn help other people with that stuff. Now, on my journey to find the best facilitators and the best trainings to become the best coach, I stumbled across Peter Shaw, who runs a company called Scary and Exciting. And within Scary and Exciting, I'll let him talk a little bit about that in just a moment. But he mainly facilitates neurolinguistic programming trainings. So I wanted to become a practitioner. I wanted to learn from the best. And I heard beaming reviews and referrals and testimonials from Peter's work. So of course, I signed up after much torturing myself on how I was going to invest in it, how I was going to find the resources. And Peter was one of the main people in my life at that time that encouraged me to be resourceful and taught me how resourceful I could be in order to make my dreams come true. So I'll always be so thankful for that, Peter. You were one of the first people that ever taught me how much power I had at my fingertips that I wasn't tapping into. And so I invested, I attended, I got certified, and in that training, I learned things and tools and techniques that I had never learned before and that nobody was ever teaching other people. And so in that training, in that facilitator training, I opened my eyes and I realized this is the most useful toolbox or skill set that I've ever been taught with personal development. What would take most people, years or months to get through in regular coaching sessions, Peter was breaking through with other people that he was training in just minutes. And speed isn't always the goal here, but it does go to show that when you have the right techniques and you really know how to tap into your client and you really know how to isolate and identify what the patterns are that you need to reorient or shift, how much transformation can occur in such a short amount of time, which is amazing for those of you who are listening who want to facilitate deeper transformation with your own clients. So since that facilitator training, I was hooked. I was like Peter's number one fan. I love him. I was tuning in all the time, trying to absorb whatever I could from his material online, which is very scarce during that time. He wasn't posting much on social media, but I referred everyone that I could to go attend his trainings. And that's basically why I'm here. He equipped me with the tools that I have today that I infuse into my marketing, my sales, my entire program in OCA. And he actually is a guest trainer inside of OCA, teaching them about mindset and emotions and how to deal with all the different parts of you that surface when you're on this emotional entrepreneurial roller coaster. And he's also the reason why the show is called Payday with Rayray. I was talking to him and I was like, what should I name the show? It should be something like clever. It should be something, this. And he was like, you probably just want it to be iconic, right? I was like, yeah. And so he's like, just call it Payday with Rayray. And I was like, genius. So Peter is kind of this advisor in my life that I look to when I'm struggling with the deepest shit. And when I really need someone who has a very clear, potent perspective to offer. So it's just, I feel so humbled and so honored to have him on the show to share with you guys. And I'll just shut the fuck up right now and just introduce you to him. So thank you so much, Peter, for being on the show. I love you.
Thank you. It's so good to be here.
So Peter, the topic at hand that we are going to discuss today is one that you are very, very, very good at discussing. Like most things, you're a very good discusser and a debater, and you do not want to get in an argument with Peter because he will take you down. But he uses his powers for good. And what I want to talk about and jam on today is the balance between hustle and flow. So when we're mentoring people inside of OCA, we notice that there is a tremendous amount of endurance and stamina needed to be an entrepreneur and to make it through not only 90 days of a business sprint, but 6 months and then 12 months and then a year. And then if you want this to be your lifetime career, obviously you need to know how you work, how to manage your energy correctly, and how to take this to a lifetime. And a big topic that people bring up all the time when we're talking about entrepreneurship and the grind and the hustle is burnout. How do I not get burnt out when I'm hustling and grinding my ass off, trying to make the results appear in real life? So Peter has something called the unique code that he's presented at Broke to Woke Summit, the event that I held last October of 2019, and that he teaches to the students inside of OCA. And they just come back with like, oh my God, please bring Peter back. He's amazing. So anyway, Peter, I would love to know, first of all, Scary and Exciting, your company, how did it get started? Where did you start from? Because, did you come out of the womb this amazing or what happened? And then we'll dive into your unique code and what you have to share with the Payday with Rayray listeners about that. So let's start with you, where you come from, what you're all about.
It's not clear, the out of the womb piece of the story, because there was no social media back then. So none of that even happened.
Your mom wasn't able to Instagram her labor.
That's right. If it's not on YouTube, it wasn't real. And so I was very lucky. I grew up and had a wonderful childhood and nothing went wrong. And I guess the irony of then spending the first bit of my career helping people who had the exact opposite experience, fears, phobias, depression, clearing out people's anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, jealousy, all the major emotions that they'd accumulated over their lifetime, and reintegrating people when they developed internal conflicts caused by trauma. That's where I started in business. So I was dealing with people who had almost the opposite experience of me. And then in high school, something curious happened. I kind of got a little bit lost, but it wasn't the bad sort. It was just I was invisible, and I went into observer mode and just absorbed the world around me, particularly information. In high school, I was given this label, oh, Peter's smart. And other people got the opposite label. They're like, oh, this person's dumb. And it started, maybe they colored just outside the lines when they were 6 years old. And they're like, oh, this kid's not going to make it. And then that belief gets inside people and it determines, perhaps they're even in their entire life. So we call these limiting beliefs, but no one knew that back then. Everyone was just going forward. And so I went on and high school, in terms of education, was a breeze for me, and everyone thought I was really clever. And then I did half an engineering degree, and then I was like, okay, this is silly. I'm passing the engineering exams without even turning up to the class. What's going on here? And I went on a brand new journey that involved first accelerated learning, because I wanted to know, like, how was this even happening? And I found out something totally devastating, which is that I was not smarter than anyone else. It's just that the school system, the education system, was an exact match for my setup. And I started to learn about what you just described as your unique code. Everyone has a different code, a different setting, a different way of being. And when your code is a match for the world around you, life is on total flow. And so my education experience was this flow the whole way through. And accelerated learning led to an interest in self-hypnosis because I was interested in anything that could facilitate being better at things. Self-hypnosis led to an interest in hypnosis, which led to NLP, Neurolinguistic Programming. And I did my first practitioner training in 2003, and it blew my mind. I was like, this is the most amazing thing I've ever discovered. So since then, I've been teaching NLP trainings all around the world for the last 17 years. There was a good period of time there where I was regularly traveling and teaching. And that might be making a little bit of comeback just as soon as we are released from our COVID-19 restrictions. And so, like I said, I started working with people. I was teaching the NLP, but I was doing breakthrough sessions with people, particularly for fears, phobias, depression, anxiety, all the heavy, heavy stuff. And we were turning people around inside of a single breakthrough session. Their lives never looked the same ever again. And for the first 10 years, and perhaps even now, after I finish working with a person and they report back 6 weeks later, 6 months later, 6 years later, and they're like, thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't believe my new life. And the thing that I don't tell people is I'm like, neither can I. Holy shit, who knew that this is actually possible? Except the evidence is right there in all the people that have been through this type of training and this type of breakthrough. You're an example. I'm an example. And there's thousands and thousands more. But I still can't quite believe it to this day. And then in about 2007, 2008, there was this phrase that I was using again and again and again in every single presentation, whether it be to 5,000 people or 50 people. I was saying, if it's scary and exciting, do it. And it was this perfect formula, this perfect code, because everyone's stuck inside their comfort zone. And so if something's scary, it's definitely outside your comfort zone. So scary means growth. But you don't just want scary things because sometimes they're wrong for you. It's scary to jump out of a plane without a parachute or the correct knowledge or the right instructor. That's just scary. So it needs to balance out. And the exciting bit of scary and exciting is who you become. And so it might not be exciting for you to do public speaking. You might be terrified of it, but you're probably excited about the type of person you will be in the future when you're able to speak freely and do podcasts, webinars, live talks. You're probably not. There's people who are excited about skydiving, and that's fantastic. There's people who are terrified. They're not excited about the act itself, but they're excited about becoming the type of person that would willingly do that. Becoming bold, becoming daring, becoming adventurous. That's the exciting piece of scary and exciting. And so now it's this perfect formula. It's perfectly balanced, scary and exciting. The exciting bit is you rediscovering yourself, reclaiming yourself, finding your true self and that direction. And so that's what I've been doing ever since.
I love that. And yeah, you guys will hear me kind of, what is it called? Parroting scary and exciting all the time, talking about the importance of leaving your comfort zone, but in a direction that actually fuels you to who you want to become, not just for the fuck of it. What I want to make clear before we go into the nitty gritty of how to find your unique code, because what you brought up was so important. When your unique code and the way that you work and the way that it makes sense to you in terms of learning and doing and being matches up with the system or the way that the world currently works, it's awesome. No problems. But when you are not fitting into the world system, when you feel like you are out of place, when you feel like you just can't learn anything, when you feel like you're just broken and there's something wrong with you, there's actually nothing wrong with you. You're just not putting yourself in a place or in a way where you can thrive using your unique code. Now, before we go any further, can you please explain in Peter Shaw terms what neurolinguistic programming is? Because there are some people listening who are like, meh, drooling, but there are other people who are like, wait, what is that? Is it hypnosis? Is it mindset stuff? What is it really? And how do you use it? And can you share some case studies about what this tool has allowed you to overcome with some of your past clients?
I think the reason there's some confusion around NLP is, number one, when it's being taught around the world, it's mainly being taught badly. And that's incredibly important to realize. But it happened for a reason. NLP is this incredible tool set that got caught up in the personal development movement. It got caught up in the everyone become a coach movement. It got caught up in the everyone should be wealthy movement. And this happened particularly, around 2005 to 2015. There was this block where everything went crazy and everyone was promising, like, make 6 figures, make 7 figures, make 8 figures. And it was just the wrong approach. Like, when you learn carpentry, they teach you carpentry. They don't put a sign on the front door that says, build mansions every day of your life. So NLP, we're going to bring it back to the tool set itself. And the neuro is for the mind, linguistic is for the words or the language, and the programming bit is obvious. So it's the language of the mind. And inside the language of the mind, we have a whole bunch of different things. You have your beliefs. So if a person believes the world is unfair, or everyone's out to get me, or if they have a belief like corporations are greedy and evil, then that will color your entire world. It's like putting on a set of glasses and now you only see the world as unfair. It's like you can't even see anything else. Using NLP, using neurolinguistic programming, we can help a person take off those glasses, take that belief out. And oftentimes those beliefs set in your childhood, and that's because we are learning and absorbing so much there, but they can come at any time. For anyone listening today, they might have a new limiting belief that they just got last week, right? They were going along, everything was just fine, and then something got cut off and they made a new belief, oh, I can't do this, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy. Some of the classic limiting beliefs of our time, of our generation. Especially if you're looking at Instagram every single day, you're comparing to people, you're comparing your worst moment to other people's highlights. And that will create beliefs like, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'll never get blah, blah, blah. I'll never have that relationship. And so using NLP, we can decode that belief and strip it out of the body, like tearing wiring out of the system. And then we can recode and put in a new belief. And so we can take someone from the world is unfair to I'm a lucky person. Right? Now you walk down the same street the very next day and you're viewing the world from the lens of I'm a lucky person. Everything is different. Your entire life is different just by changing that one belief. So in NLP, when you learn other modalities, like if you learn hypnosis, you're learning one modality. In the NLP training, just at the practitioner level, you learn 40 different tools for your tool belt. And that's why it's a bit confusing sometimes, because when a person says, oh, I use such and such modality, they're quite often using one modality. And then in NLP, you're getting this tool belt of actually 40 different tools that you could apply. And so there's some confusion about that. But it's awesome to have your tool belt stocked out. And when the person says you can bring out the appropriate tool for that problem, it's totally awesome. Then as you go deeper and deeper into NLP, it gets more and more subtle. It gets more and more covert. And some people love that stuff. The quantum linguistics, the covert influence that you can have over people. And that's all super cool stuff. But if you just know the basics, if you just know how to do anchoring, which is how to be in the emotional state that you want to be in at any given point in time, that's a life changer. If you just know how to clear out the limiting beliefs and the negative emotions from your past so that you're emotionally a clean slate, that is total freedom. And you can choose your actions and behaviors instead of having them dictated by your past. Total game changer. If you just know how to change your behaviors using the strategies portion of NLP, and you can, instead of freaking out before you pick up the phone, you can be in control of how you are before you pick up and talk to clients. Total and absolute game changer. If you can know what your values are and be aligned to your values, right, then that's amazing. Your life, we're talking about hustle versus flow. That's where you find your flow, by finding that total alignment with yourself. So I've been working with people, changing their beliefs, changing their outlook, aligning them with their values, tearing out old behaviors that weren't serving them, having them be emotionally a clean slate. And then we haven't even mentioned the peak performance stuff. Now that the person is set, they're clean, we point them forwards and program in how that person wants to be. And perhaps the examples I'm best known for are programming people who are totally shit scared. Like they need to wear their brown pants when they wake up that morning, scared of heights, and then we take them skydiving. But before we go, we program in how they want to experience that skydive. And most people choose, I want to be blissing out. I want to be totally calm. I want to be lucid. I want to be in the moment. We program that into them and then throw them out of the plane for them to experience exactly what they pre-programmed, which is totally amazing. And when they hit the ground, they're like, holy shit, now that I've done this, I can do anything. And you can do the same for public speaking. And then recently we've started teaching people stand-up comedy because that's something people are like, I could never do that. I would never do that. And within 3 days, we can take any person on the planet and make them funny in front of an audience just by breaking it down and knowing that the most important bit of stand-up comedy is standing out the front there and being yourself. It's not having written clever jokes. Right. And this is a total game changer. So I like doing weird and wonderful things with people like that as well.
Weird and wonderful. That's a great way to describe it. Okay, so that is the NLP breakdown from Peter Shaw. Can you give us just one example of like a phobia, for example? Because you're talking about mindset, emotional, stuff like that. But sometimes we're afraid of things. We can't even justify it. For me, it's like spiders, like very, very, just when I see a spider, it's better now. But when I was young, it was incredibly frightening. And although you could give me any logical explanation as to why it's not dangerous or something like that, I still felt locked up and scared and blocked every single time I saw a spider. Imagine getting one on me. It was like traumatic. And there are a lot of people who have like lower level phobias, like speaking on camera or getting on stage. But let's take an example of a classic phobia, fear of an animal or circumstance or something like that, and how you were able to turn that around using NLP.
So a phobia is like an anchor that got set one time super intensely. And now every time that is triggered, you get this super intense response. And so maybe you're a child and you're running through the backyard. Your mother thinks she sees something in the grass. So she freaks out. She screams, "Snake! Ah!" and handles you roughly and pulls you inside. Now, that might have been a snake or it might have been a stick in the grass. It doesn't matter. The emotional intensity of that can get stuck inside of a person and it goes with a certain trigger. And so now, if this person saw a snake, they'd freak out. If they are walking through the forest and they see like the end of a stick, they might also freak out because in their brain it goes, I'm not sure if that's a snake or not. And it fires this incredibly intense response. So we can unhook that and reprogram it. And in fact, with most phobias, you only need to unhook it. You don't need to program the next thing in because you're just freeing a person of that there. So the number of people out there who have some sort of phobia of public speaking because they got laughed at in the 3rd grade, or they had a project that they were so proud of, and then the cool kids at the back of the class were like, oh, it's a piece of shit. So these phobias, these intensities get stuck inside of us, but they're actually very easy to unhook when you know how. And then you're free.
You're free. So to summarize, the phobias that we have, the fears that we have are learned behaviors, learned responses somehow. Maybe it was just set in once super intensely, and it may be something that you don't even like consciously remember. In fact, most of our fears are some things that we learned below the age of 7 when we were most impressionable and had the least access to logical reasoning, right?
Absolutely. They can also be modeled. So if your dad had an intense phobia of something, or your mum was scared of a certain type of thing, you can directly model that, and that just becomes part of you. And it's not even your issue. They're totally worth letting go of.
Okay, so that's the rundown on NLP. I'm sure that you guys are really interested now in how you can use that for yourself to reach that higher level of peak performance and, of course, use it in your business so that you are not burning out. You understand how your unique code dovetails with the work that you need to get done, but also how do you take care of yourself? So, Peter, I'd love for you to jam on the unique code stuff and how you came across this and why it's such a game changer for those of us who are looking to work a lot and grind and want to get a lot of work hours done, but don't know what our fuel sources are. And we just feel depleted at the end of the day, not sure why. Like why some days you feel on top of the world, the other days you feel like a piece of shit, like you can't even get out of bed. So this unique code learning style that Peter has taught me has allowed me to continue going with an incredible amount of endurance and consistency. Like everyone around me is like, Rachel, how do you keep going? And you seem like you're doing really well. Like you seem healthy at the same time. I'm like, yeah, more or less. Like I am healthier and less healthy at different times, but my endurance and my stamina is consistent because of this unique code thing. So let's jam.
There are so many bits of this to unpack, and it's super exciting. So if you're getting burnout, very simply, you are not being you. If you're getting burnout, you are off your code. You are doing something different than who you truly are and how you are put together. I discovered the unique code and the hinging points after years and years in the personal development industry, where they were giving this generic one-size-fits-all advice that didn't work. They say, hey, everyone, you need clear goals. And I'm like, holy shit, I've never had a clear goal in my life. How come I'm leapfrogging over everyone? It doesn't make sense. And I saw the people who were searching for these clear goals actually holding themselves back because they were going, okay, well, I can't start until I know what I'm doing, until I have this clear goal. So to be clear here, there is a portion of the population that do very, very well off clear goals. But it's like 20% of people. The other 80% of people prefer goals that are vague. I call it a foggy vision, where you go, do you know what I want? I want a life. I want good people. I want to be surrounded by music and good times. I want to be stimulated and challenged. And you spit out words like this. Some people, it's like, I want to be surrounded by luxury. Some people want to be surrounded by nature. Some people want to be near the water. Some people want hot climate, cold climate. Just say the theme of what you are after. And it's like you're throwing it back and you're saying to God, all right, anything that meets that criteria is good with me. And that is a fucking phenomenal way for 80% of the population to set goals, because they acknowledge that they don't know everything, that the best is yet to come. And it's this realization that who I am being today, the action steps that I'm taking today will lead me somewhere great. And they don't need to know where that is in advance. Just to repeat, if you're a clarity person, then definitely set clear goals. But for everyone else, you're off the hook. You just set goals the way that suit you the best. And so for some people, that's a foggy vision where you write down, do you know what? I want a life filled with stimulation, challenge, good people, interesting people. I want dinner parties, not nightclubs. And you give the theme tune of your life, and then it spits you out, like God faxes you back immediately. I'm not sure if anyone on this podcast knows what a fax is, but God faxes you back immediately a list. If that's the life you want, here's who you need to be. And we're going to come to that in just a second, because that is our golden piece. That's our output there. The industry that I was in was also saying, hey, you've got to find your purpose. Everyone, you've got to find your purpose. But it's only about 15% of the population that are purpose-driven people. And so you had 85% of people. I watched people spend $10,000, $20,000, $100,000 searching for something that wasn't the right fit for them. They were searching for their purpose in life, and they went backwards on their personal development journey, not forwards, because they were told to find something that didn't exist. They were chasing their tails. And so I was like, so this person over here needs a purpose. Let's get them a purpose. But this person over here just needs to be part of something. And so let's get them something to be a part of. This person over here, they need to fight. They don't function unless they're fighting for something. This person over here needs to believe that they're doing something that no one else can do. Well, let's try and reconfigure their world to suit that. This person here functions best. Now we're getting deeper and deeper into the unique code, right? This person here, there's all this stuff like, hey, you've got to have a clean desk. A messy desk is a messy mind. Bullshit. Like, you couldn't be more wrong. The clean desk people need clean desks, and everyone else, your desk can be an absolute bomb as long as you are functioning. You've got to do you. And so this is where this notion of the unique code came from, is just pure observation that, hey, this person works best under pressure, whereas this person crumbles under pressure and does their best work when they're left the fuck alone. And so we need to leave this person alone, and we need to pile pressure onto this other person. And now, like, we can take this notion, just what I've said now, of the unique code, and we can transform anything. We can transform the education system by going, these people should be tested by exams because that's when they thrive. But these other people should never do an exam. They should do a rolling analysis of where they're up to at that point in time. This person is an assignment person. This person will never do an assignment, no matter what the conditions you give to them. And everyone is their own learning style and has their unique code. So that's where it came from, is just seeing people, often from stage, speakers and gurus and that sort of thing, saying stuff that just was absolutely not true, and finding and watching, because I like watching people's journeys over years and years and years. And I'm like, hey, that doesn't work at all for that person. And so it led to this unique code. And in finding it for yourself, you unlock your flow.
That is so fucking true, because I remember, this is, first of all, two pieces. This is really a conversation of observation and reality, and not distorting reality with the way you think the world should work or the way that you work. It's really just looking at the facts. Does this person do well under pressure, or do they crumble under pressure? It's simple. So put them in a situation, and if this is you, put yourself in a situation where you can thrive. And the permission piece as well is so huge, because we go through life being taught all the shit that we should make our bed in the morning and our desk should be clean and we should have our shit together and we should be going on a walk every day and we should be eating small meals every 6 hours or whatever. And it's so much pressure, especially if it's not even things that allow you to thrive. Like, maybe you do best when the pressure is on and when people are relying on you all the time. And otherwise you're just laying in bed looking on Instagram all day if you don't have people to impress or deliver to. And I think the permission piece that you're bringing to this is one of the most valuable pieces of this conversation. I remember when you told me, I was like, oh, Peter, there's something wrong with me. I have this deadline that I have to do this huge presentation for, and it's 2 weeks out and I haven't even started on it. And you were like, okay, great. Why don't you just let that be what it is and do a little bit every day? But ultimately, you know, you're just going to show up and rock it, right? And I was like, yeah, I don't need any outline, to be honest. I just need to show up and start talking. And that's just the way I work. But I know other people don't work like that sometimes. And I was putting myself into this model that I should be preparing and like doing revisions and practicing and doing all this stuff, when really that's not the way that I work. So I remember this huge alleviation of stress and pressure getting lifted off of my shoulders when you told me that I'm a pressure performer, and I've identified with that. And it's been helping me so much organize my workday, organize my team, and organize my deadlines so that I'm working in partnership with the way that I naturally am. So how does one find their hinging points? And can you give us a list of examples of what the most common hinging points are to start out with?
So your unique code is every bit of code. Whether you're a team player or you like to work autonomously, or whether you work better as a team leader, whether you're motivated by rewards and carrots, or whether you're motivated by being yelled at and sticks and negativity. And so there's all these different things, and they come in handy to know all of them. But your hinging points are the bits that make everything else work. So you have a door, and a door will swing on 2 or 3 tiny little hinges. So you've got your unique code. That's every piece of you, every bit of coding, every belief, and you've got thousands of beliefs, every different part of you, and you'll have many, many different parts of you, every different value and meta programs, all of these things. But your hinging points are the 2 to 3 things that you need to get right for everything else to work. How do you find them? Usually you find them when they go away from your life and it feels like the wheels are falling off your bus. So you usually find your hinging points by the absence of them. So we're right here at the moment during COVID-19 lockdown all around the world. And a lot of people who had things in place are finding out that their life isn't working at all at the moment. And so they're finding out, I need structured exercise. And they're finding that they're falling apart without that. They're finding I need to be part of a team, and they're falling apart without that. Some people have very cleverly gone from the notion of a board meeting every Monday morning to a Zoom call every Monday morning, and they're still firing through. And that's awesome because you can find your hinging points in many different ways. It doesn't just have to be this one set way. But this amazing thing is happening where this whole other group of people is finding that their life is working better during the lockdown than it ever worked before because they're discovering hinging points that they previously ignored. So hinging points are split into 3 different categories. You've got your basic hinging points, and this is like eating quality food or eating regularly, sleeping, having family support, having financial security. They would be your basic sorts of hinging points. But let's be clear, I love sleeping. But if I miss a night of sleep, I can still function 100% the next day. Whereas other people, if they miss a night of sleep or if they sleep badly for half the week, the wheels fall off their bus. So for me, sleep, I love it, but it's not a hinging point. But for the person where without it, they can't function, that is a hinging point. I, given my body type, love eating. But I go most days, especially on a work day, I'll eat my first meal on a work day at 7 p.m. And on a regular day, I'll eat my first meal at about 1 p.m. and my second at 6 p.m. I don't need food to function as much as I love it. But there's other people where if they don't eat every 3 hours, the shit hits the fan and the wheels fall off the bus. For that person, eating regularly is a hinging point. So there's some of the basic ones. And then to go a little bit further there, some people, when they have financial security, which for some people is $100 in their pocket, for some people it's 10 grand in a bank account, and for some people it's $1 million in a retirement fund. It's different for each person. But if financial security is your hinging point, then when that's messed with, you'll feel like your entire life is messed with. Your hinging points are not there for you. It feels like everything's gone wrong, like a door with no hinges. But when your hinging points are there for you, everything else works. And so for me, my hinging points are, I'm a pressure person. And so when there's pressure, I perform. When there's no pressure, nothing. And just a side note on this, because I know that your people will want to hear this. A lot of people who think they're procrastinators are not procrastinators. They just have pressure as a hinging point, and it's the absence of pressure that is causing the so-called procrastination. You do not need to deal with your procrastination. You need to insert the correct amount of pressure to fire you up. Okay? And so that's really important to know, because you could beat yourself up. For 10 years, I'm like, oh my God, why can't I do things? And it's like, and then I learned this, I discovered this, I started to implement this. And now if I'm not doing something, I don't beat myself up for a second. I just go, how can I put myself under some pressure? There's other people out there, including clients of mine, that are the opposite. They cannot have pressure. It causes them to crumble. And so they need to create a stress-free environment. The second type of hinging point are the ones around you. You know, maybe it's a support team or a vision to hook up to. The personal development industry tells everyone, hey, what are your goals? How are you going to be self-actualized? But more than half the population are not me people. They're others people. And they require other people to have goals so they can hook up to them. So if your hinging point is being aligned to someone else's vision, then every time a person says, yeah, but what are your goals? It'll fuck you up because you don't know what your goals are because you're not built like that. So if you're an others person, be an others person. It's totally fine. You are going to need some boundaries so that you don't get used and abused for sure. But you should not be trying to rejig your entire life and make up goals that don't exist inside of you. You're an other person, so run with that. And the third type of hinging points are the weird and wonderful ones. And so I know this guy who has this hinging point where he can't do anything unless he thinks that only he can do that. Like he's like some sort of superhero. He's not interested in doing normal, boring, ordinary things. He's only turned on when he thinks it's spectacular in some way, or that no one else could do it, or no one else could do it like him.
And you guys can't see this, but Peter was pointing at himself when he said this guy. He knows this guy,
guilty.
Speaking for a friend.
Guilty.
But yeah, go on.
And so you can have weird, outrageous hinging points as well. I just want to be clear because this gets asked all the time. You don't need one from each category. They're just wherever they are is yours. For me, all my hinging points are in that weird category. That's just how I'm put together. I'm a weird guy. And some people get all the boring ones, but it comes with its own curse. If you're the type of person that needs a good sleep and you need to eat every 3 hours and you need to be left alone to do your work and not have pressure and deadlines put on you and not be micromanaged all the time, then people will say to you, hey, come to this meeting. And you're like, oh, just a sec, I've got to grab something to eat. And they'll go, no, just come to the meeting. It's only going to be 15 minutes. You can eat afterwards. Do not ever let someone run over or steamroll your hinging points. But the problem is that people that have those very basic hinging points, which are the easiest to meet, by the way, that person just can carry around sanity snacks with them. And so whenever they're feeling a little low, they can eat something and be good to go again. But this person needs to enforce their own boundaries. But quite often they do it to themselves. They think, oh, that's not important enough. Whatever your hinging points are, you must make them sacred. You need to know what your hinging points are and then make them sacred, because when they work, your whole life works. You can be in the worst circumstance, but if your hinging points are met, you will feel good about being in the very worst circumstance. But you can be in the very best circumstance. You can have money coming out of your ears and popularity and all the things that people think are important, and you can be fucking crumbling inside because your hinging points aren't met. So whatever they are for you, make them sacred.
I love that you pointed out how everything comes with its own curse. You bring this up to the OCA students all of the time. It's fun to think about what society views as cool, like, oh, I can hop on a stage and I don't even need an outline and da-da-da-da. But it's its own poison. It's kind of like pick your poison. I would much rather be the type of person who is just taking their time and prepare and do a little bit of work every single day and just needs a snack to get through the day, and then I'm all good. But my hinging points are almost all in the weird and wonderful category as well, which is if you don't know how to use it or you don't know really what that means or what your hinging points are, because society doesn't really give you a system to use them, you think you're broken your whole entire life, which is where I was at for such a long time. And I think that it's also worthwhile mentioning how it's important not to go for what sounds coolest. Like, you might hate your hinging points, right? So talk about that a little bit.
You don't choose your hinging points, and you might not even like your hinging points. So one of my big hinging points is pressure. That doesn't mean that I enjoy being under pressure. I have the same reaction to pressure as everyone else does, which is, oh, get that away from me. But I know it's essential. So anytime I want to do something, I place pressure on myself to activate me. You don't have to be in love with your hinging points. You don't have to like your hinging points. You just need to make than sacred. To use my own example again, I think that I would prefer to have self-initiated goals, but I'm not. I'm an others person through and through. I'm about as far on the others scale as it gets. And so people say like, hey, Peter, what's your heart's desire? And I'm like, I don't know. What's yours? And so I am always looking to leverage off other people. And of course, that causes problems. Hey, where do you want to go for dinner? What do you want to eat? I don't know. Where are we going? I just want to join in on things. And that's one of my hinging points. I think that I'd prefer to, have my own thing, but I'm not built that way. I'm built for pressure. I'm built for helping people. I've refined that one, by the way. And this is a good example of the boundaries you might need to put. I would help anyone. I would drive for 4 hours each way to help you move your refrigerator if that person asked. And so, of course, over time, I'd need to put some boundaries around that. And so I made it very, very simple. In business, I don't talk business with friends and family unless they ask. And so what that's let me do is that when I'm with my friends, when I'm with my family, I can just be myself. I don't need to put on anything for those people. But then when I'm working with clients, they're paying me. And so I have guided my insane urge to help people down a business path by putting a simple rule that I only work when I'm being paid. Right? And so that's really nice. But then I refined it even further. I'm in the very, very fortunate position of only working with the people that I want to work with. And so my hinging point has been refined to the point where it's helping people who will say thank you 2 years from now. And so that's very clear and very specific for me. If someone wants my help, but it's not an integral part of their life, it's not really what I'm interested in. And so it's been refined down to this very specific phrase. But it just started out with helping others. That's all I knew. Okay, so let's point in that direction.
Wow. So to summarize, the hinging points piece of the unique code that you might be running, guys, is formulated by 3 categories, and they don't have to be in every single category. You could be all in one category or sprinkled among the 3. But there's the basic category of hinging points, which is like sleep, food, financial security. Do you have a morning routine? What are all the basic things that make you tick and make you activate and get you to get moving? The external is what I kind of summarize the second one as, those things that are like vision. Are you a team-oriented person? Are you more apt to help yourself or to help others? What are you really driven by when it comes to envisioning? And then there's the third category, the weird and wonderful category, which I think you used to call the twisted category, which was a lot more fun to say. I got twisted hinging points, which is like one-upping people, like needing to impress people, needing to be the best of the best, needing to outdo someone, performing under pressure, needing to, what else is there in the weird and wonderful category?
So, for example, in the external category, you might have a person whose hinging point is looking good. So they always need to look at their best, or have a full face of makeup, or the brand new shoes or brand name clothes. So that would be an external one. But when that goes a little bit further, that this person, like, they need the best such and such, then that might be a little bit twisted.
Gotcha.
Like, this person needs the biggest house, the most expensive boat. I would put in the twisted category. Everyone has a friend that tells you how much everything costs them. They're like, oh, see that car there? Yeah, that was $100. Just bought some new shoes today. Yeah, they were $200. And you're like, why are you telling me the price of everything? Just leave the fucking price tag on and walk around your life. But they need to so bad. That would be a twisted hinging point. My apologies to anyone on listening to this podcast who is that, because I just outed you. But if that's you, then figure out a way to get that into your life.
Yeah, exactly. And the permission piece comes in again, like, stop judging yourself for the way that you're set up and the way that your system ticks, but instead learn to put rules around the way that you perform in your hinging points so that it's not destructive and it's actually bringing you to the things that you want to get closer to. And also find ways and healthy ways to bring that into your life on a consistent basis so that you can continue to function and be in peak performance. Woo! So that is all of it summarized. Thank you for sharing that with the Payday Babies. I appreciate you.
Thank you. It's been awesome. And I just missed one bit, a loop that we opened before when we're talking about, for all the people who are like, oh yeah, a foggy vision, that sounds good. Write out the qualities you want in your life. I want challenge. I want to learn. I want to grow. I want to be part of something cool. And then the next category is the important one. You write a second list. Who do I need to be to live that life, or what type of person gets to live that life? And now we've got what I call your activation code. If you've got who you need to be, I need to be bold, I need to be daring, I need to be radiant, I need to be vibrant. And I am a pressure performer who loves helping other people. We've now got a full activation code. You know who you need to be and how you need to do that. Because the hinging point is the channel that you push that through today.
That was brilliant. So that's a writer downer. Your activation code is who you need to be in order to achieve your vision, whether it's foggy or clear, and your hinging points, how you basically do the way that you be. Anything else to add, or any homework that people should be writing down and doing on their own time to find their hinging points?
Every single person should write a scary and exciting list, and then just pick something today off that list. For one person out there, it's doing their first Instagram story. For someone else, it's asking for help. For someone else, it's signing up to OCA or some other program that they know they need to do to catapult them forward. So write a scary and exciting list and keep it there. Maybe it's in your phone, maybe it's in your favorite journal, but this list will grow until it's hundreds of items. And then set about crossing them out one at a time. That will get you outside your comfort zone every single day until that comfort zone is obliterated and you are not restricted by the old version of yourself anymore. That's how you get that epic and real personal growth.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to close us out with one last question. I'm going to take you off guard for a moment. And I want to ask a question that is one part, I guess you could perceive it as selfish. It's about me, but it's also something that I really want to gain clarity on because of your powers of observation. You've observed my entire journey from start to where I am today. And my journey started in 2014, which is the year after I graduated high school. So I was young, I was fresh, I was like, let's do it. Now I'm a little bit more wizened. And a lot of what I've been able to implement has been from your toolbox and what you've taught me. And I'm curious, what are 3 things that you think I've done really well or that I've really messed up that are the most important things for the Payday with Rayray listeners to understand about their entrepreneurial journey? So in short, what are the top 3 things that you think are the most important to point out about my biggest mistakes or my biggest things that I did right about my journey?
Oh, what a great question, which is what people always say when they're buying time. You ask for help, and you ask for help willingly. It probably doesn't feel great for you all the time. You're probably scared or embarrassed or many other things that we all get when asking for help. But you ask for help, and that's super important. But you do it in a very particular way. You don't ask everyone. You only ask for help from the person that is most able or capable to give you the type of help that you need. And that's super important because some people, when they're having doubts, they ask for help, but they put that everywhere. At this dinner party, at this conversation with their family, the person they just met at the bar, and they get 1,000 different bits of advice back. And of course, all of that advice is just the other person preaching what they would need to do in the situation. So it is rare to find people that can help you without their own bias, that actually give you the answer that you need. And I think that you have specialized in asking for help, but from this particular category of person. So that's one thing.
That's actually really interesting because I have this rule with my students inside of Online Coach Accelerator that there's only 3 qualified sources of feedback for your business. Number 1 is your mentors. Number 2 are your ideal clients. And number 3 is your own soul. So it's interesting. I follow that framework, and it's very interesting to hear you reflect that. So on to number 2.
Not to contradict, but hopefully to add to that equation, there are some people who, at least temporarily, should also ignore the feedback from their ideal clients. Because if you're doing something new, like Steve Jobs didn't go to the people who grew to love iPods and say, hey, what do you think of this? He invented the iPod and then told people that they would love it. And that's what. So if you're an ahead of the curve type of person, then maybe you should go easy on asking for feedback. If you're doing something new, then maybe you should go easy. The deepest part of that in OCA is, are people buying? And that can be a source of feedback as well. Not you asking for suggestions, but are they actually consuming you? But every so often, a person should ignore that when they're doing something new, different, or special. If that's you, you just skip over that. But of course, you come back to it.
Yeah.
Right? Once the iPod is invented, you then look at the sales figures to see if people are consuming it. There might be a temporary skip in there for some people.
Thank you for pointing that out. It's like, look at the reviews, look at the sales. But Henry Ford has this quote, I think it's from Henry Ford, where he says, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have asked for a faster horse. But he invented a car, which is something people had never even thought of as a possibility. So that's a really good point.
That's exactly it there. The second thing that I think you've done very well is, and I know how hard this has been behind the scenes, but on the surface level, putting your ego to one side to accept the pieces that life has required from you. And so as people go through their journeys, life will say, hey, you need to be like this now. And you're like, I don't want to be like that. As you grow your business, for anyone out there, you will need to be on top of all the legal stuff at some point. You'll need to be on top of all the accounting stuff at some point. You'll need to be on top of your personal investment. You can never take your eyes off your money. You have to be a good custodian of that for your entire life. And you don't get to go, I don't want to do that. Instead, you have to put your ego on the shelf and go, oh, fuck, here we go.
Yes.
Here's me becoming something totally different than what I thought I wanted to be or needed to be. So I think that's the second thing.
And when we were texting one time, I think we were just texting back and forth, creating a list of like our biggest life lessons or something cute like that.
Yes.
And you messaged me and you said, what you brag about most or what you pride yourself on most will soon become your biggest weakness. And that's been so, it's like what got you here will not take you there. And I've gotten very far in life by being a perfectionist, being a people pleaser, being all of that stuff. And then it was starting to poison the well that I was drinking from. Yes. And I had to ask myself, okay, who do I need to be? I need to revise this. I need to go into queen mode instead of princess mode. And it was a very big transition. So that's important as well. Thank you.
And then the third thing sort of matches in with that, which is that because I'll just talk about us, when I have asked you to do less, not more, you've done that, which for a person who's very action orientated, very forward facing, very public facing, it must have been terrible to get the occasional text message from me saying, do less. Now, often it was do less on a higher level, but stop trying so damn hard. It's not going to get you where you need to go. And so I think that's the third thing you need to be commended for, is sometimes that is the absolute hardest thing when you're convinced, no, I'm doing this, and you're in the groove, is to pull. In Australia, we'd say you manage to pull your head out of your own ass and have a look around and go, oh, okay, I just need to either do nothing for a bit, or I need to slow this, or I need to reevaluate this, or I need to stop trying so damn hard. And what that meant is all your frantic energy came back to be aligned, and aligned energy equals results. There's a lot of people out there who are on the hustle thing, but they're not hustling. They're just being frantic. They're putting energy in all things. We want that energy aligned like a laser beam, and a laser beam can cut through steel. And that's what we want for people.
Hell yeah. And then the final question, and this is more of a growth point, or even could be considered like, what do you see as my biggest current opportunity for growth right now, which is a nice way of saying, where am I fucking up? Please call me out. I would love to just be transparent with the listeners and get a piece from you about your observation about where I'm at right now, what you foresee as the biggest growth point for my journey right now, which, as you're listening, guys, I also want you to realize that if you're in the position where this advice would also be relevant for you, then definitely take a listen. If it's something that is coming up for you later in your entrepreneurial journey or in your life, then just pocket it for later. But yeah, what do you see as the biggest growth point?
That's such a tricky question because so many things are going right. You've worked so hard. We've worked so hard. Your team has worked so hard on doing things right. And the last conversation we had the other day was about the new systems that are going in place behind the scenes so that things go smoother, so you can replicate things and go for this next stage of growth. If we're facing forward to the future with the acknowledgement, so the heart of the question is that, hey, call me out where I'm fucking up. Well, we already did that. And so we've been doing that over the past 2 or 3 months, but really since October last year, you and I have been focusing heavily on touching up, all these things and getting your energy right. And so now you're reaping the rewards of all of that. So I'm going to turn and face the future. And the future is that there is behind the scenes dealings to be done. It is finding the people who are next level and, quite frankly, invisible, because there are business people out there who every coach out there that earned $30,000 last year is on Instagram claiming that they can teach other people to get to 6 figures. And that's just the way the world works. What you're after next is the people that you have never seen before, you have never heard of before. Quite frankly, they're invisible. They're the string pullers behind, and that's your next place to be. The world will see your next move publicly, but your move after that, no one will see it. It'll be the behind the scenes play, and that's the next level to go and explore. It's very exciting, but it is the biggest ever exercise in can you lose your ego to live the life of your dreams, because you want to pull up in a Ferrari. You want to say, hey, everyone, this is the mansion. And that's, your journey so far. You've worked really hard. You've made bank, and you've got to represent that with where you live, how you live, and teach other people to do the same. It's crazy. But your next step will be totally invisible, and there'll be so much money, you'll be hiding it from people, and you'll get in trouble if you put it on the outside. So, Rachel Bell is not going to disappear. You'll still have OCA, you'll still have the podcast, you'll still have forward-facing things, but the real future deals are all going to be done behind the scenes.
It's funny, you read my mind, because just recently I've been exploring, who is the most quiet but has just silently been bawling? And I know that they're bawling for the past 5 or 6 years, but they just never post. They don't talk about it. And I've started conversations with some of those people, and it's blowing my mind. And it really has already been such a big exercise. And oh shit, I don't feel like I can keep up. This is big. And it's just another point of scary and exciting for me. But thank you, Peter. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your reflection and your observation. And most importantly, thank you for being you. And thank you for being such an amazing friend in my life, and someone that I can truly trust with any situation, any opportunity, and just being down to clown whenever we want to jam out. I just appreciate you so much. And guys, I implore you to check out Peter, and however you can. He has a website called scaryandexciting.com with some great material on there, but he's most active these days on his Instagram, which you can find him at scaryandexciting. Anything else to add, Peter?
If it's scary and exciting, do it.
Amen. Well, I'll see you guys next Friday for the next episode of Payday with Rayray. Stay safe out there. Find your hinging points. find your activation code, and do it. Thank you, Peter, and I'll see you next time, guys, on the next episode. Bye. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did find it super valuable, you just want to share it with the world, make sure you screenshot, post, and tag me on Instagram so I can stalk your profile and we can connect more. And to get notified on the next episode here on Payday, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes so you never miss a beat. Get out there, secure the bag, and I will see you next Payday.